1-0.
Barbarianism is the natural state of mankind. Civilization is unnatural. It is the whim of circumstance, and barbarianism must ultimately triumph. Robert E. Howard. Greetings, fellow barbarians. It is I, Alan Odinson, and you are listening to the Barbarian Lounge podcast. If you're not following us on Facebook, please go there, give us a like. You can keep up to date with every single thing that we're doing. You can stay in contact with us, send us ideas for shows. This particular episode is actually a listener idea that was sent in. I told them that we would do it, and we are doing it. You can follow us on our website at Podbean at thebarbarianlounge.podbean.com. You can subscribe there and keep up to date with everything. So first off, before we start into our content about the uncivilized society, let me just hit our sponsor here for this episode, Mitacon. Let me tell you, it's an amazing workout drink. I've been using it for a while. It's called Mitacon. That's M-I-T-O-C-H-O-N. And it's designed to help access the energy within the cell, actually getting into the cell and activating it on the mitochondrial level. I usually take Mitacon before and after any MMA, weight training, or archery workouts that I do. It helps me to feel more focused, stronger, and helps with the endurance and give me better recovery. I also take it anytime I need to boost the concentration and endurance, which is why I've got my bottle sitting right here with me. I'm going to be sipping on it throughout the broadcast. You can check them out on Facebook at Mitacon, M-I-T-O-C-H-O-N. You can get yours today. When you go there, tell them Alan Odinson sent you. My boys will hook you up. So, we're going to get into this concept of the uncivilized society. This quote by Robert E. Howard. If you don't know who Robert E. Howard is, he is the writer of the Conan series, those series of novels. It's not just a movie that Arnold was in, and that is the only Conan movie I'm going to mention, because as far as I'm concerned, those are the only ones. But Robert E. Howard wrote the Conan series, and he dropped a lot of gems of knowledge in there. And we're going to hit this quote here about the barbarianism being the natural state of mankind and how civilization is unnatural. So, to get started with this, we need to understand exactly what it is to be a barbarian. I mean, what is a barbarian? Most people, when they think of barbarian, they think of some oaf with a club that's walking around clubbing everything. But if you define barbarian, it's actually a member of a community or tribe not belonging to one of the greater civilizations. And by greater civilizations, what are we talking about? We're talking about empires. We're talking about the Roman Empire, the current United States Empire. Any empire, any group, any class of people who congregate all together that make up a civilization. These are the type of people we're talking about. The barbarian was considered the outsider. If there was ever just one word you could use to sum up the idea of a barbarian, it would be an outsider. He was considered uncivilized. He was generally a nonconformist and viewed as a threat to social order. Social order. Now that's an important word. That's a word that's a collection of words we're going to be talking about a good bit. Social order. Social order is really what makes up civilization. Civilization was designed to create a social order. For the barbarians and people of that like, they tended to be your tribes of men who operated underneath their own tribal rules and had their own tribal identity. Civilization creates a mass fraudulent identity. And this social order is designed for a reason. There's a reason Rome designed it. There's a reason the United States and other empires in the past have used it. because it creates control. And when you have control over people, you can control their hearts, minds, their ideas, things they want to do, things they want to buy, whether they're upset, whether they're happy. These are all things that the ruling empires want to control. Because as soon as you start getting a class of people who start operating under their own rules and show they don't need this sort of society, things start to break down, and that social order starts to fall, and that civilization, that fraudulent civilization, that unnatural state that we live in begins to crumble. So let's talk about, from a historical standpoint, the easiest, most efficient way I can talk about this would be to talk about the Germanic tribes during the Roman Empire. These Germanic tribes were made up of a lot of different people, a lot of different smaller tribes, and the Romans didn't really see the Germanic tribes as much of a threat at the time. They were unorganized. They kind of did their own thing. They didn't have a lot of strategy when it came to fighting. They just kind of operated in the let's charge and ambush kind of scenarios. And the Romans weren't afraid of this for the most part. You know, small groups here or there, they could be quelled if need be. However, these Germanic tribes started to form together. They started to align themselves with each other. Now, granted, they did not come together as one massive civilization, but no, they came together as allies with a common goal to keep out this Roman culture that was starting to invade their land and their way of life. Now, there were some groups who enjoyed that Roman culture, and they wanted to get the nicest clothes and all the newest trinkets that was being offered, and even given control over land. A lot of them wanted this. But for the most part, most of the tribes did not. So slowly these groups began to work together. They elected chieftains, they elected strong leaders who were in touch with their culture, in touch with the ideas that made them up. And now Rome realized that these men were starting to become a threat. Yes, that's right. Rome began to tremble at the thought of these Germanic tribes coming together. Does that sound familiar to you? Think about modern society. Whenever you start seeing tribes of people who start sharing an identity that goes against the norms of society, that goes against this controlled structure that is being created, you start to see Rome tremble. And this is what began to happen. And the Romans started trying to move in, started trying to assimilate these people, and these people refused to be assimilated. They refused, they maintained their tribal identity, and they were able to keep Rome out until Rome crumbled. Another great example of this, stories that I love, is the story of Spartacus. As you know, Spartacus led the slave rebellion. He was a gladiator. He led other gladiators, which gladiators were basically slaves. A lot of people glorify the gladiator, but the gladiator was nothing more than a slave that was forced to fight. So he led these slaves, these gladiators and other slaves that he freed along the way. He trained them, and they pushed back against Rome. They pushed back against that society. And again, Rome trembled. Spartacus pushed all the way till he was at the very gates of the capital. And Rome was trembling. But he was never successful in actually defeating Rome. But while he lost that battle, he did win the war, because he was able to push all the way to the gates, push it so close that the people of Rome, who were used to seeing or hearing of the war far away, they never actually saw it. It never got right to their doorstep. But he pushed it to the doorstep, and they trembled. The people began to tremble. They were afraid. What happens if such a slave rebellion were to happen again? Even though this rebellion was quelled, what happens if it happens again? And the people demanded change. They demanded change because they were afraid. They were afraid of what could possibly happen. What if these uncivilized, trained, nothing to lose barbarians decided to revolt again? Would they be able to stop them? I mean, look how close Spartacus got. Rome trembled, and Rome changed. If you heard my episode on the pirates with Blackbeard and the Republic of Pirates. There's another fine example. They pushed back against the empire of the British. They were used, they were abused, and these people said, you know, you can't push us around. We're going to develop our own culture. We're going to all start to come together. We're going to unite. We're going to have our own economy. We don't need you. And the British Empire, they trembled. So naturally something had to be done about this. You saw the same thing with the American colonists, but the difference was the American colonists were able to actually win the battle. Now there were a lot of things in there that led to this, but all these people started to come together. They were considered outsiders. They didn't fit in. None of these things fit in together. But when they share a common identity, and they share this lust for freedom, they were able to fight back. And fight back effectively. It's important to understand also that this idea of civilization, where you operate under this umbrella of control, where you have people deciding what you will do, how things are handled, what you'll buy, what's right, what's wrong, this whole concept, you have to understand this was not something that man just decided one day. All the tribes were sitting around and they said, you know what? We're going to just become a nice civilization, and we're going to trade with each other, and everything is going to be wonderful, and we'll have rules and all this. And they didn't expect everybody to just conform together. No, we didn't just decide this. Now, there's a lot of things you could say. You could factor in a lot of things throughout history, and little things could be picked up here and there. But see, in the beginning, whenever they wanted to assimilate tribes into a civilization, it was done with blood. It was done with sword, it was done with shield, it was done with cavalry, it was done with firearms. This was how consent was usually attained. It was attained through violence. However, they found as the years progressed that there had to be a much easier way to do this. There had to be a way to get people to consent willingly to be a part of this unnatural state of civilization. You can really start to trace this back. You could probably pick a lot of different things, but if you really want to trace where the modern decadent society that we're living in right now, where it began, you could trace it back to a man by the name of Edward Bernays. Edward Bernays was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. And Bernays was able to get copies of Sigmund Freud's work on psychoanalysis. So they used this psychoanalysis, and he developed this idea of public relations. Now understand this, he wanted to use the term propaganda, but because it had such a negative connotation due to the Nazi use of it, he decided to go with public relations instead. Just change it, and it was kind of like democratic socialist. You add a word to it, and now people say, oh, it must be something totally different. No, it's not. It's not totally different. So Bernays used these techniques of psychoanalysis and began to apply them to marketing and apply them to ways to sell things. One of the things that Bernays did, that he had the cigarette companies come to him. These cigarette companies came to him and they said, you know, Eddie, we need to start selling more cigarettes to women. There's a strange thing where women aren't wanting to smoke as much, especially out in public, and that's limiting our marketing. What can we do? So what Bernays did was he set up, because there was this whole women's lib, the suffrage and all this stuff like that going on at the time. So they had a parade going. And Bernays come up with this idea of having all of these women at a certain point all stand up and light cigarettes at the same time and walk down the street. Well, then he alerted the media and said, look, some suffragettes are going to fight back against this idea that women can't be free, and they're going to light up torches of freedom. How does that sound? Torches of freedom. Well, we're fed that line quite a bit, where they get you to buy into this whole idea of, if you do this, it represents your status as a citizen. So Bernays come up with this idea based on psychoanalysis, because he viewed it as women would be more likely to smoke if it was related to freedom and made them feel like they had their own penis. So he set this thing up, and lo and behold, they did this, and women started buying cigarettes like crazy. The cigarette company said, thank you, Bernays, now we can double our profits. Other things Bernays did was sell presidents. That's right, sole presidents. People had low approval ratings of presidents, so what did he do? He decided to bring in celebrities because people associated with celebrities. So Bernays said, you know what? He said, let's bring in some celebrities and let the president meet with them, and we'll alert the media. Boy, does that sound familiar today. Selling you the idea that these figures in TV and movies, which are nothing more than court jesters, he brought these people out to be the face of the president, the face of politics. And now we see the same thing today. We see these people, these court jesters up there telling us what bills we should support. We should support climate change. We should support Hillary. We should support Trump. Do this, do that. And people are still buying the same lies and the same game. But this goes even deeper. After World War I, Sigmund Freud, he became very disillusioned with mankind in general. He felt there were a lot of these unconscious, aggressive forces in human nature that especially presented themselves in crowds. So he had this fear. If it was not controlled, governments would fall. That sounds familiar as well, doesn't it? They're always wanting you to be calm. They want you to be calm. We don't want to be calm, do we? No, we don't want to be calm anymore. We're sick of being calm. But he believed that human beings couldn't make rational decisions. Couldn't do it. So his writings started to spread around, and then a political writer by the name of Walter Lippmann got hold to it. And this guy was in the ear of all the presidents, all the higher-ups. And he said, you know, we need a new elite to manage this herd. And we'll use these psychoanalysis techniques to do it. A new elite. Now, you don't have to be someone who's into conspiracy theory or believe there's an Illuminati or a New World Order to believe that there's an elite out there. It's very much in your face. This elite is out there now. This is the way they view. They view as a herd. They're standing up on top of their mountaintop, and they're looking down at you with their nose turned up going, we must learn to quell the herd. But the herd's not going to be quelled anymore, is it? We're not going to be quelled. We're not. We refuse to. As my granddad used to say, why don't you stand up on your hind legs, stick your chest out, and show people what kind of a man you are. So Lippmann teamed up with Bernays around the 1920s, and they decided, Bernays said, you know, we can use our two techniques together. Let's stimulate human desire and satiate it with consumerism. And that way we can manage these irrational thoughts and these irrational tendencies of human behavior. And this was how they created this idea of a century of the self. They engineered this consent. They had people, through buying shit they don't need and believing in nonsense, they were able to create this ridiculous culture that we're living in right now. They civilized you. They civilized you with words. They don't fight you with weapons anymore. They want your hearts, they want your minds, they want your souls, your very spirituality. This is where they're attacking. And this is why I give you this information. I don't give you this information because I want to give you a history lesson. That's not my goal here. I'm showing you the magic trick, my friends. The magic trick. You know when you're watching a trick on TV and you see a guy doing these fantastic things and you say to yourself, you say, man, how did he do that? Well, then he comes up and he says, hey, man, let me show you how I did that. And then he shows you behind the scenes. He shows you the other side of the coin where he's actually doing the trick. And you see it and you say, well, God, it's so obvious. Then you watch the trick again and it loses all of its luster. Because you clearly know how the game is being played now. This is what I'm giving you here. I'm showing you the magic trick. So when you see these things popping up in front of you, when you see them coming on TV and telling you that you have to like Bruce Jenner, and yes, I'm going to call him Bruce because he still has a dick, and that DNA is never going to change. When they tell you have to like that, and they tell you have to be like the Kardashians, and you have to go and take selfies, and you have to be a hipster, and you have to put glitter in your beard, and you have to love Hillary, and you have to love socialism, it's all engineered. They're trying to draw you into this web of civilization, because that's what everybody else does. That's what they want. They don't want individuality. They want you to be like everybody else. And if you don't have your own culture, if you don't have your own beliefs, your own things that you're willing to follow, they'll create a culture for you. we find a lot of this countercultural idea that's pushed on a lot of people following this modern day idea of tribalism. This countercultural idea is still something that's created. One of the things I think about is the world of the motorcycle clubs, the MCs. I know a lot of guys who ride motorcycles and would even be considered in groups of MCs. And, they understand the level that culture operates at. So what do? They attack your television with something like Sons of Anarchy. And then before you know it, everybody's a fucking biker now. Everybody's buying leather jackets, throwing rockers on them, and they think they're a biker. They want to be Jax Teller or some shit like that. And that culture gets co-opted. And you start having these guys that they're just kind of like wannabe bikers. We see it also with the heathenism movement. I heard the term used the other week that was like a Viking. And that is so true. You got so many people who are diving into this, oh, look at me, I'm a Viking thing now. And most of those people don't even understand the nature of what they're learning. Now, those that want to be of the Norse or heathen path, that are learning and they're adopting the culture right now, those aren't the people I'm talking about. I'm talking about the wannabe Vikings, the people who have no connection to this culture, nor do they want to have any connection to this culture, all of a sudden believing they're part of it. So they're trying to push this civilization on you, this very, very unnatural state that we're living in right now. I mean, look around you. Look around you right now and tell me what you're seeing right now is normal. It's not normal. This idea of the Kardashians and some of the ridiculous wear that you see people wearing, the ideas that are being pushed right now where they're telling you need to be disarmed. And barbarians were always told this. They were always told, these outsiders, they want you disarmed, they want you weak, they want you fat, they want you lazy. This is the idea that they're trying to push. Because if you push this idea, those types of people are easily controlled. There's a reason they're trying to destroy the family. The idea of having kids. The idea of groups gathering together, especially if you share the same ethnicity. We see this constant attack starting to happen. And it's done that way for a reason. Anytime groups come together, even if they're of different tribes, if they begin to align together, this makes Rome tremble. Always remember that. But it's important also to realize what we're doing. How are we going to break those chains? Because we're here. There's no denying that we're inside. We're inside the walls of the Roman Empire right now. We're inside those walls. How do we fight back? Is the idea to go and overthrow the government? Are we all going to get together and march down the streets of D.C. and throw out the current government that we have? No, you can't do that. If you think you're going to do that, you're wrong. Flat out, you're wrong. You cannot. They have unlimited resources, unlimited power, and they can chase you an unlimited amount of time. Understand that. You will lose that fight. So what is the fight that we can win? How do we break those chains? Do we just roll over and show our bellies and say, okay, we give up? No, you have to look at it like this. Think of the system like a bundle of sticks. When you take that bundle of sticks, put them together, they're all tied up. Think about like the symbol of the fasci. The fasci is actually hanging, or the fasci is hanging actually in Congress. It's a bundle of branches that are tied together. So think about the system as if it's a bundle of sticks together. If you try to break those sticks, if you try to grab that bundle of sticks and break them, you're not going to be strong enough. You're not going to be strong enough. There's too many. They're solid. You're just not going to do it. However, our goal is not to break those sticks. Our goal is to begin to cut the ribbon that holds those sticks together. To untie it. Untie those sticks so they begin to fall apart. And then when those sticks begin to fall apart and they become separate, they become easily to break. This is the path that barbarian tribes have used for years. This is how you fight back against the system. You destroy it by changing the culture, changing your culture, changing yourself. The change begins with you. Right off the bat, the change begins with you. You can't change the system if you're not willing to change yourself during the process. This is one thing that is missed so much. Everybody wants to change things, and they think they're just going to march up there and destroy everything. We're going to grab our guns, and we're going to walk. No, you're not going to do that. You have to be willing to change yourself and make changes in your life. Let me tell you something. Empires typically are never conquered. They collapse from within. And this is the untying of the bundle of sticks. That's how the system is defeated. So how do we break those chains? How are we gonna snap those chains that bind us? How can we start changing? Just as I said, that change begins with you. Right now, it starts with you. I'm not talking about next week. I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'm not talking about maybe next year or once you get everything in line. No, right now, if you're listening to this right now, the time is now to change. How do you start to change these things? How can we start changing them? The first big thing you can do is change your lifestyle. Things you do in your life. Break away from the conditioning that surrounds you. No, like I say, you know the trick now. There's no reason to fall for the trick. You know the secret to the trick. So you can start changing these things. Disconnect yourself from that TV. Change your lifestyle. In general, the lifestyle that's pushed in society is to be quiet, is to be calm, is to be docile, be stupid. Just go along to get along, get what's yours. No, you change that right now. You change it this very day. If you're sick of hearing that shit right now, tell me something. Let me hear you. Let me hear your roar. Let me hear you go, ugh, ugh. Give me that barbarian grunt, my friends. We're changing our lifestyles. You need to start exercising. You need to start lifting. You need to start, and you don't have to be a world-class power lifter. You need to start watching your diet. You need to get off your ass. Put some boots on the ground and do things. The world does not change, and your life does not change and become better from your couch. It just does not happen that way. You need to disconnect from your TV as well. I have not had TV for over 10 years. I don't even have one of the little converter boxes that have the regular channels that people tune into. I don't even have one of those. I have a Netflix account that I watch every now and then, but other than that, there's no TV in this house. And the reason being is once you remove that TV, now you have purpose not to sit down like a bump on a log and stare at the idiot box all day. That's what my granddad used to call it. My granddad used to call it the one-eyed monster in the corner. That one-eyed monster in the corner is feeding you and shaping your culture right now. Look around you. You see all the men on TV these days. The men are portrayed as stupid. They're dumb, and the women are telling them what to do, and they have no power, and they work in a job they don't like with a domineering boss, so they just take it, or maybe they're weak. They have to be weak and sniveling all around everything. That's shaping of society. Things are done through advertising. That's product placement. That's product placement to create a weak society, a weak mindset. And as the modern day barbarians, this is that civilization being created. This is that unnatural state that we want to push ourselves out of. Barbarianism, in order for it to triumph, you have to disconnect from that TV. This is where they're pushing these ideas of the Kardashians and the ideas of fucking Honey Boo Boo and all this other bullshit. This reality TV. They give you reality TV because they don't want you to believe that you have any sort of real power in reality. So you can just live vicariously through these characters on TV and not get out and snatch life by the balls and control it. You need to start disconnecting yourself from things like this obsession with sports. If you like sports, there's nothing wrong with liking sports. But the obsession of it, the simulated combat, you project all of your aggressiveness and all of your natural aggressiveness that a natural person has. Civilization has created this unnatural state where you push towards the idea of sports. You want to be involved in this, and you know all the stats for this guy. I was somewhere the other day. I finally decided to venture out of my cave and wander into town, and I listened to these guys talk about sports. They're like, oh, this guy's being traded to the Clippers, and and they knew everything. I guess that's basketball. Fuck, I don't know. But they knew everything about this guy. They knew his college background. They knew how tall he was. They knew his statistics and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, I wonder if these guys know how to kill an animal for food. I wonder if they know how to filter water. I wonder if they know how to change a tire. I wonder if they know anything about the current leaders that are trying to rule this empire. I wonder if they know how many buildings fell on 9/11. The answer's 3, by the way. These are the things I wonder. But no, they invest their time in the bread and circus of sports. Think about when Rome was collapsing, what did they do? They offered more bread and circus. They give you more sports, more gladiatorial games, more things to push your energy towards, because if you push your energy towards that, you will not push back against this current system that is being imposed upon us right now. Start changing your friends. If you hang around a bunch of dumbasses, it's time to drop those guys. Or if you can't get rid of them, or you don't want to get rid of them, maybe you've been tight with them for a while, start to try to change them over. Start to inform them about the nature of reality and what's actually happening to them. You can start to change your look and your fashion, things that you wear. Don't buy into this idea of skinny jeans and fucking glitter in your beard and all this other nonsense and these dapper hairdos and all that. It's ridiculous. It's a culture that's pushed upon people to try and control any sort of natural instincts that they have. Another thing I would suggest is start to build a network and build a tribe. So you may say to yourself, how in the world do I do that? And I use the word network and tribe as 2 separate entities, although they are very similar. Me, I've always been kind of the consummate outsider, if you will. I've always been the type of person who is a loner. I kind of do my own thing. Now, I have people that I hang out with. I have friends. I have people that I'm tight with. But we don't really hang out like we don't all get together and have a beer and stuff like that. That's not the type of people we are. However, I would say, and I'm not going to exaggerate, probably in a 100-mile radius, I have probably about 10, 20 guys that I know have my back and I have theirs. So you think about that. It's a tribe, but it's spread out. It's almost kind of like cells, if you want to. I don't want to use the term sleeper cell because it's going to sound Al-Qaeda and ISIS-y. So I don't want to use that, but our group is spread out, and we can all help each other, and we support each other if we need to. Now, if you're going to have a tribe, you can do it the same way, but a lot of times tribes will come together and meet each other and do all this and do all that. So it's important to establish what type of group you want to have. You can have both. You can have a tribe that networks. I mean, those are things that you can do. But you want to have this set up, because once you start creating this tribe, and people start coming together, you have a bunch of tribes start popping up. And these tribes can start aligning with each other, and they can start supporting each other. This is the idea that you're looking for. And with your tribe, you'll want to build a wall. But everybody went, oh my God, build a wall? That sounded like Donald Trump. Yes, you need to build a wall. You need to build a wall around your tribe. You need to build a wall around your people to start blocking out all of this nonsense in society. All these things that are starting to seep through. You need to start blocking that out with your wall. However, I will caution you not to build your wall too high. This is a problem that I see in a lot of the modern tribalist movements. So these guys build their wall so high, they use it as an excuse for apathy. Cultures drown in apathy. Apathy is a culture killer. I hear all the time, and I can't stand hearing the term, not my people, not my problem. I understand the idea behind it, of trying to control things that you have no control over. However, I will caution you. I look back to the Native Americans. The Native American tribes, you had, when the European settlers were coming in, they were coming through, and you had these Native American tribes, and they kind of had the concept of not my people, not my problem. They were all separate, and all those guys, they would look over off in the distance, and they would see this tribe, or they would hear of this tribe several miles away being overrun by European settlers, And they would say to themselves, you know what, not my people, not my problem. Well, what happens when that tribe is conquered, and now those European settlers, or whomever it might be, the invaders, if you want to call them that, right now we're seeing invasion across the world in the form of refugees. What happens when those invaders are done with one tribe, and now they move to your tribe? What if everybody else around you, all the other tribes, say to themselves, hey, not my people, not my problem? Before you know it, each tribe is picked off one at a time because they did not care. And I'm not saying you have to be friends and you have to care about every little bleeding heart thing that happens. No, I'm not telling you that. What I'm telling you is that you need to keep your eyes open at what's happening around you. You need to pay attention to things like politics. I'm not the type of guy who's going to look at you and say, hey, your vote counts, do your part. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. I don't believe that. I don't believe your vote counts. I believe the fix is in. I've always said that. I will continue to say that. However, I will also concede to the idea that there are levels of bad. And there are some that are worse than others. And when I say worse than others, I'm thinking of Hillary Clinton. But you have to understand that if you're not paying attention to what's happening around you, right now we live in this nation. Yes, we're barbarians inside of a nation. Our culture's created inside of the nation, inside of the empire of the United States of America. We're inside of it. We're not outside those walls. So what happens inside those walls directly affects us. When they talk about gun bans, that directly affects you. You need to pay attention to that. Because the goal has always been to disarm the population, especially populations that are considered barbarians or outsiders. They don't want you to be armed. As soon as that's the sign of a free man. So, you need to pay attention to things like taxes. You live in this country, you have to pay taxes. You need to pay attention to that. When they start talking about taxing this, you need to pay attention to that. Right off the bat, you need to pay attention to it. Because it does directly affect you. Yeah, they're taxing these people over there. They're not taxing me. Well, guess what? When they're done with them, they're going to come for you. Once all these other little groups are eliminated, you have to understand that tribes come together when they have a congruent goal. This is what the Germanic tribes did. They had a congruent goal. All their goals were the same. They were being overrun by the Romans. So they had to align themselves. You don't have to be friends, but you have to work together to fight, to push back a invading empire, I guess you can say. They're invading on your culture. As I said, right now the idea is hearts and minds. So, I always wondered to myself with the Native American cultures, what if those cultures would have decided to work together all at once? They could have pushed the Europeans right back into the ocean. Granted, you and I wouldn't have been here, and that's all theory. I don't have any proof to that. But they were massive in number. So be sure, if you're going to build your wall, make sure that you've at least got windows. And you've got intel from what's going on outside. Don't build it too high. If you build that wall too high, you're setting yourself up for ruin. This is the idea that the civilization wants to get. They want to get you apathetic. They want to get you not caring about everything that's going on around you because they know that's the easiest way to pick you off. You also need to develop a code or a culture in your group. This is the idea of what do you do? What do your people do? When you guys get together, what do you do? Do you shoot archery? Our group, we shoot archery. We shoot guns. We practice martial arts. We work on prepping. We grow food. These are the ideas that make up our group. This is an identity we have. Some of our people share a Norse heathenism identity. Other ones are Christian. Doesn't matter to us at all. But you need to decide what you do. What are your rituals? What are your rules? What are the rules you have? You don't allow this. You don't allow that. Certain moral standards. They need to be established right off the bat. Anyone that doesn't fit into that, they get pushed outside the wall. Once you start developing this wall and developing your code, developing your culture, what do? All of our guys, when they do archery, they tend to, one of the things we do is have them get shot in the back with a blunt tip arrow out of a high-powered bow. Very painful. They're not allowed to flinch. They're not allowed to do anything. If they react to it, that's kind of equivalent to cowering when you get jumped in. So we don't allow that in our group. But develop your code, develop your culture. Once you start doing this, you're going to start making the system tremble. You're going to make that very civilization tremble at the thought of there are people stepping outside of the boundaries. These are the things that differentiate you from them. People used to always ask me when I used to powerlift, they said, why in the world do you want to lift that much weight? My response was always, because other people don't. This is setting you apart from them. This is stuff we do. They don't do this. And granted, there are other people that powerlift, don't get me wrong, but you're starting to divide yourself up. You're starting to make yourself smaller. You're starting to establish your group. And you know that if people don't do this, they're not in your group. You need to start to develop a sense of self-sufficiency. Grow your own food. Go out and hunt. One of the things that keeps people in this web of civilization, and one of the things that always set the barbarian tribes apart, was the fact that they were self-sufficient. You have the ability to get your own food. You can hunt. You can grow food. You can filter your own water. You know these things. You know how to build fire. You know how to build a home. You know how to fix your own car. You know how to fight. You know how to shoot. You know how to protect your own people. These are the ideas that can start to develop amongst a tribe that will lead to this self-sufficiency that is so vital. A lack of self-sufficiency is one of the things that keeps people in chains right now. You think, yes, some people grow food, a lot of people in my area especially, they hunt. However, most people, they're going to the grocery store. They're swiping their EBT. They're out there getting this for free, getting that for free. And if the grocery store's ever dried up, you know as well as I do, most people would starve. They would starve to death. They wouldn't know what to do because they don't know how to skin a deer. They don't know how to clean a dove. They don't know how to grow some squash. These are things that people has become lost to our generation. And it's because of this society and this culture that is being imposed upon us right now. You need to start training, learning to protect yourself, learn to shoot, learn to fight. Because once you do this, you can start to separate yourself from the system as well. You're not that type of person. Think about it right now. You know somebody right now that if anything were to happen, what's the first thing they would do? They would grab their cell phone and they dial 911 as they hid. If you know somebody like that, go ahead right now where you're sitting. I know you know them. Give me a Yeah, you know it. You know for a fact there are so many people like that. And that's something that's been picked up through this ridiculous TV culture right now. Because you see in the movies and stuff like that, you see something goes down, what do? Oh my God, my cell phone. No, they're not running to get a gun. They're not grabbing a weapon. No, they're not doing that. They're just grabbing their cell phone because they need somebody else to handle things for them. The mark of a self-sufficient society, a good, solid outsider society, is the ability to handle their own laundry, to handle their own problems, the ability to impose their own sense of justice, if need be. I tell people, I just saw this whole thing that just happened up in New York, where you saw the guy whose wife this man was attempting to rape this other man's wife. He caught the guy and beat him to death. That's how a tribal society would handle things. But a normal, civilized society, what did they do that we live in right now? What did they do? They arrested him. They arrested him, they're going to try. Now, this man may not see a day of prison. He may not. I can't think that a jury would convict him, but hell, it's in New York. Who knows? But in a tribal society, that's how things will be handled. That person would be handled either they would be handled to the point where they didn't bother anyone anymore. And that could come in many different forms. There's one reason the pirates used to maroon people. They would put them on an island by themselves and hand them one pistol with one shot in it and say, there you go, do with that what you must. So when you develop this self-sufficient idea, you can start to handle things. If someone's beating down your door, you're not going, you know what? Let me run and call 911. Oh no. No, you're grabbing your gun and then you're calling 911 not to protect you, but to protect them. Because what's on the other side of that door? They're going to meet the devil as soon as they come through that door. The devil's going to be standing there in the form of you waiting on them. So when you call the cops, you're not saying, "Oh, please help me, somebody's coming." No. You're not saying that, my brothers. No. You're saying, "You know what? You need to send a coroner because a man just broke into my house and he's dead." That's the way things are handled. One of the things, I think back to my granddad yet again. Throughout all my podcasts, you'll probably hear little gems from him. He was a great man. He was a Christian. He was a pastor. And I'd listen to him, even though I'm a heathen, don't follow the Christian path. I would listen to him speak for hours if I could at this moment. He's passed on. But he used to use the concept of being in this world, but not of it. That's the way we need to think of it. Don't develop this ridiculous idea that, you know what, in my world that I've created around myself, I don't worry about these things because I don't want that in my world. Well, to me, that's almost like a transgender person saying, I'm going to put on a wig and a dress and I am now a female. No, you have a dick. Your DNA is that of a male. You're a male. I don't care what make-believe you're playing. We have to be very mindful not to play this idea of make-believe that you've created your own world where these outside influences do not affect you. Because they do. If you say they don't, you're lying to yourself, plain and simple. Being in this world, but not of it, means that you've pushed aside all of these ideas that culture's pushing on you. They're telling you what to dress. They're telling you how to act. They're telling you what needs to be important. All these things. You decide what needs to be important. You decide. As I said, I've shown you the magic trick. This TV culture that says you have to pay attention to reality TV and that you actually care what Justin Bieber or Miley Cyrus is doing right now. That tells you that Hillary Clinton, even though she's been caught red-handed doing things that should disqualify her from leading an empire, they tell you that's not to worry about. Take a sip of my Mitacon here. They tell you to follow this pop culture idea where you start wearing skinny jeans. You start thinking to yourself, hey, it's great. And you start allowing men to walk in the women's bathroom. When you see people try and explain this, when you go to these colleges that tell you that this sort of thing is perfectly natural, when you see this start to happen, and you start to talk to these people, you can see this unnatural state where this programming is fighting against their own instincts that say, no, a man should not be in the women's bathroom. But you can see that conflict that's developed in college, which is nothing more than a brainwashing organization. You don't go to college to be educated. You go to college to be indoctrinated. So in this setting, in this college setting, they can feed you these lies and tell you socialism always works, even though it doesn't. They tell you all of these things to slowly drag you deeper into the waters of civilization and have you deny your instincts. These people they want you talking sports. They want you to not care. They want you to be this caged human. This human that's inside of a box. They want to put you inside this box. They want to make you a pet. Barbarians and people who want to live on the outside, this is the reason it's unnatural. Civilization is unnatural. You were not designed to be a pet. You were not designed to be taken care of. You were not designed to slave away in a job you hate. You were not designed to be sitting under fluorescent light bulbs all day long. You were not designed to eat GMO foods. You were not designed to eat water or drink water with chemicals in them and take all these medicines for every little ailment you have. You were not designed to sit around all day and watch TV. No. You know what your ancestors did? What your ancestors were designed for? What you were designed for? You're no different. Let me tell you what you were designed for. You were designed to grab a spear, walk into the woods, find the biggest fucking animal you could with your brothers, and stab it to death so you could have something to eat and maybe a pelt that night. I listen to people tell me all the time that they are, oh man, it's Monday. Oh gosh, not Monday again. And they're scared of Monday. They have this fear of Monday. You know what I do to Monday when Monday rolls up? I see Monday on the horizon. I grab my axe and I decapitate Monday. And as its body's laying on the ground, I plant my black flag right in the chest of Monday. And I say, you're mine. I own this day. And then I look off on the horizon, and there's Tuesday. And I do the same thing to Tuesday. Then I do it to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's no rest for the wicked, my friends. And then Monday rolls around again, and Monday flees from me because it knows that Alan Odinson has arrived, and I am going to take this day and make it my own. I don't fear Monday. Monday's an opportunity. Monday's an opportunity for me to grow. And it's an opportunity for you to grow. Today. Today is the day. Whatever day you're listening to this, today is the day that you change. I hear people talking about having health issues. Health issues over a job. How ridiculous is that? That you're sick, that you're stressed, that your body's breaking down because of a job that you hate. The reason that's happening is because it's unnatural. You were not designed to do that. That's not the way it was supposed to happen. I tell these people, I say, quit. Oh, well, I can't quit. Well, you know what? If you can't quit your job, if you can't quit your job right now, if you're listening to this broadcast, and you're saying to yourself, I hate my job, let me tell you what you do. You do exactly what I did. I worked in a job I hated, and I slowly made plays to get out. And that day that I was sick of living underneath that tyrant's rule, I told him to go fuck himself, and I walked out. Because I had things in line. I made plans ahead of time. Because that's what you do. That's what men do. If you want to be a master, if you want to have that true master morality and not slave morality, that's what you do. You don't let your job kill you. You don't let your job physically affect you to the point where you're having to go to the doctor and you're suffering from stress. You don't do that. You start making plays this day, right now, whatever you're doing. You start making plays. They cram you into this rat race. They want you to sacrifice your honor for the sake of $1. You're worth more than that. But this is the day. This is the day we start making change. This is the day. They're teaching you through the media, through entertainment, through all these different mechanisms. They're teaching you. They teach you. They say to you, you know what? You're supposed to live in a box. Then you're supposed to wake up. Then you're supposed to go to work in a box. As you're driving, you may stop at a box and pick up a box of food and cram that down your throat as you drive to work. Then once you get to work, you get out of your box and you go inside and you sit in a box. Then you come home to your box, sit down in your chair and watch the idiot box in the corner. You do that day in, you do that day out, until they cram you in a box that's stacked inside of a box, and they cram your ass into the ground. Is that the way you want to live? Is that the way you want to live your life? This sort of civilization that has been pushed on people who deserve better. You're a human being. You have value. Your life has value. And this unnatural thing that they've force-fed us from the time we were born till right now, this day, it needs to change. But it changes with you. It changes with you right now. God, let me take a sip of my Mitocon right here. You're only going to hear products pushed on here that I believe in, and Mitocon is definitely one of them. I need it for concentration, and guys, I'm getting fired up. I'm getting fired up. Because I get passionate about this. Everybody says that emotion can be a bad thing. I hear all the time that emotion's a bad thing. You don't want to be emotional. You don't want to have uncontrolled emotional. Uncontrolled emotions lead you to make mistakes. They make you irrational. And that's no good. But controlled emotion. You know what controlled emotion is? Controlled emotion is passion. It's passion that wells up inside of you. And if you don't have this passion, you're dead. You're a dead person walking right now. And once that passion starts welling up in you, you start realizing that today's the day. Today's the day we change, my friends. My brothers right now, and I call you that if you're listening to this, because by listening to this, you tell me you want to change. You tell me you don't have any desire to be part of this corrupt, unnatural, godless, sick, decadent system that's rotting on the outside. No, you don't want to be a part of that anymore. We don't want to be a part of that. I'm getting fired up, guys. I hope you're getting fired up too. If you're getting fired up, give me a wherever you're at. Come on. You've got to stand up. You've got to rattle those chains. Shake them loose. Shake them loose from your arms. And you've got to let the system know that you're tired of this. The barbarians are outside the gates right now. We're banging on the door. We're done with this. We're done. We're done with being led astray. We're done with your false propaganda that you're using. That's what it is. It's propaganda. We're done with being force-fed that. We're done with your television shows. We're done with your modern society, your modern culture, your hipsters, your fucking honey boo-boo. We're done with all that. We have no desire to be a part of that anymore. Anymore. And it begins today. If you're riding in your car right now and you've stopped somewhere and you're on your lunch break and you've grabbed some McDonald's pink slime nasty fucking Big Mac, I want you to roll your window down right now and throw it out. Throw out those fries. If you got a soda, you got your Mountain Dew, your Pepsi, your fucking Gatorade, which is nothing but a big sugar concoction that's killing you. That sugar's killing you right now. I want you to roll down your window and I want you to dump it out. Dump it out on the ground and say, I've had enough. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I'm not going to let you kill me. I don't consent to this. I do not consent to your system of control, and I will not be a part of it anymore. If you're sitting at home, you throw it in the trash. We're done. This is the day we change, my brothers. This is the day we change. You picture around you. Picture right now. We're going to start changing. We're going to change it right now. Picture this box that they put you in. Picture this box. On one side, you've got the fast food industry telling you you want to eat garbage. You got another side telling you that you need to be dependent. We got another side that's telling you to conform. And you've got hipsters banging on the door going, banging on the door. But you're done with that. You're done with these people. And that box is slowly closing in around you. Visualize it pushing up against you. And I want you to, right where you're sitting, I don't give a fuck who's watching you, because right now we're changing shit and we're not like those other people. I want you to take your hands, I want you to push it out and push against those sides of that box. You push, you can feel that box. You can feel it. Now I want you to ball your fist up and I want you to punch through it. Drive your fist through that box and I want you to shatter it. Shatter that box around you. Feel it. Feel right now that box isn't around you anymore. You're free. You're open. And now the energy of your ancestors, those that came before you, those who were out fighting, those who were out trying to survive, that were out hunting so you can be here this day, their energy is now flowing forth to you. It's flowing into your veins. You're feeling it. You're feeling it well up in you. Take a deep breath. Inhale it in. Stick your chest out. Stick your chest out. You're standing up to this system. Hold your head high. Inhale it in. Breathe in. Breathe in the power of your ancestors. Feel it coursing through your veins. Notice the sensations that you're feeling. I'm feeling tingly all through my body. I can feel it coming through to my feet. It's driving up through my body. It's going into my head. I'm starting to sweat a little bit because that energy is starting to just push all those toxins out of my body. Wherever you're at right now, look around you. Look around. Look, if you're driving down the road, look at what's in front of you. If you're sitting at home, open your door. Get out of your fucking box. Open the door. Walk outside and look. Take a deep breath. Look at everything around you and say to yourself, all of this, this is mine. This world is mine. This is all mine. Alright guys, due to time constraints, we had to cut this amazing episode short, but if you would love to hear the rest of the talk, please go download at our website, thebarbarianlounge.podbean.com. You can also find us on iTunes to catch up on any past episodes, and I hope this show has ignited you, given you energy to go do better, and strive to bring this system down. This is your host, Alan Odinson, and the Barbarian Lounge is closed.
You are listening to UC.